There's cow's milk, oat milk, soy milk, even almond milk. But have you ever thought about sheep milk? Well, this Wairarapa sheep and beef farming family certainly have. I paid them a visit. It's milking time out at Fernglen Farm on Wairarapa's east coast. Things look a little different in this dairy shed though. The Ravenwood family made the move to sheep dairy about 6 years ago, incorporating it into their traditional sheep and beef farm out at Homewood. Dad, Jeff, talks me through what's happening.
At the moment we're just milking 350 ewes once a day, and that's just providing enough volume for the market we've got going so far. We'd like to be doing more, scaling up to 800 or 1,000, but at the moment that's just about where the market is. So the ewes, as they come in, they're just getting about 250 grams of barley, which is grown by the neighbour down the road, just to give them something to do while they're being milked and attract them into the parlour. We only milk once a day, and they're heading back to the paddock now. They're going into turnips for about 3 hours, and then they go onto plantain or chicory for the rest of the day, and we find that's a pretty good diet for them.
We leave the sheep to their milking and head outside, where Jeff explains it's a family affair out at Fernglen. In addition to milking sheep, they run hill country ewes, breeding cows and finish bulls on the 600-hectare farm. Jeff credits son Cameron with the family's move to dairy, and we'll hear more from him later.
We have 3 children, Ben, Cameron and Bailey. They all grew up out here at Fernglen at Homewood, and all been really interested in the farm and what we're doing. And diversification into sheep milking was sort of Cameron's idea, and everyone really got on board with it, and we've all become sort of part of the team that's created the journey that we're on now, that's diversified into sheep milk products and continuously just growing the market. But probably the biggest thing with the sheep milking idea was we were just really sold on the nutritional side of sheep milk, and from a product side we just really thought that it had the most potential of all products that sheep produce, and we thought that there was an opportunity there to create a market and really grow the industry and at the same time restore or improve a lot of the profitability in the sheep industry that we've struggled with over the past 30 years that we've been here. Probably the main reason was Cameron's persistency, and we were really interested in it. We looked at it quite seriously, and it was sort of, do we really want to do this? And it is very risky, and we certainly talked about it a lot, and it was always Cameron's idea, and he did a lot of research into the nutrition and the environmental benefits of sheep milk, and we were pretty much sold on the idea, but we just had no one to sell milk to, and we thought there just isn't a market there. And so to have to actually build a shed and create a market at the same time, it was pretty daunting, but just because of his passion and his enthusiasm, we got convinced to do it. Because the children were so keen, it really was just a really good option to look at totally new markets and diversify what we were doing. We were doing reasonably good production with what we were achieving in the past, but we still weren't achieving good profits, and we thought this was a way of actually making our business a little bit more profitable and opening up a lot more doors.
A relatively new industry still, there were certainly a few challenges, including the right sheep to start, growing consumer awareness and overcoming strange looks from their neighbours.
It is hard. We did import the gear from Greece in the end just to save on costs and to probably do a little bit more of a budget setup, but it's all been really cost effective, and compared to setting up a cow dairy, it's a very cheap operation. We haven't gone to the real high tech equipment that some of the ones in the Waikato and Taranaki that have done, but we've got a very efficient system that works really well without spending a fortune on it, and I think it's been a good middle of the road decision. Before we even started putting the shed up, we started actually looking for East Frisian genetics, so we bought half East Frisian. We actually bought a few Pole Dorset ewes and a few different crosses, and just started creating a milking flock. And while the shed was being built and while we were developing products, like Cameron's first product that they created through Messi, through the food pilot in Messi, was flavoured milks. His real passion, being a very keen sports person, was providing a quick to digest protein drink for athletes post-game, post-workout. That most of the sports industry uses chocolate cow milk, and we really just wanted everyone just to basically take the cow milk out and go with sheep milk, because they had so much more beneficial aspects with the extra protein, the real quick digestion, magnesium and all the other macronutrients. People in New Zealand are very cost conscious, and also it's quite hard to change people's buying habits. They've been buying cow milk or some of them have been buying other alternative milks, and you've got to actually educate somebody about why they would want to change. That's probably the hardest thing, is just convincing people and get them to try it. And generally when they try it, and they're more than happy to pay the premium that sheep milk requires to be economic. People, they don't look sideways at us so much anymore, and we don't get the weird looks, and people are very supportive, which is really cool.
How does being in the dairy business with sheep compare to, say, meat and fibre, the more traditional sheep farming strategies?
The advantage of milking sheep is you still get the lamb, and if the wool had any value, you still get the wool off them, and they do still grow wool. So we still aim to finish all their lambs. We wean them at sort of 40 days and still finish their lambs. And then after weaning their own lambs, we hope to get 250 litres per ewe out of them over maybe, sort of lactating from September through till, or being milked through till March or April, ideally 250 litres per ewe. I think 300 is probably achievable, and we're probably getting about $2.30 a litre through our business for that. And I think when Spring Sheep was buying our milk off us, they were paying us around about that. If you're closer to the Hamilton processing plant, it's closer to $3, and so no, it can be very profitable, and it's just trying to keep a lid on the costs, and so the more volume and the more head you're able to milk, the less cost per litre. I mean, $1,000 per ewe is actually achievable if we can get up close to that 300 litres per ewe and rear 2 lambs, and so it's quite exciting. And if you can milk 800 or 1,000 ewes and do it at scale and spread a lot of your costs, and I think the economy of scale really makes it quite a profitable industry.
Back in the shed, and the last few ewes are finishing up. After milking, they'll be put out to enjoy a fresh feed out in the paddocks. It's all part of Fernglen's animal husbandry, which has seen them become the first dairy farm in New Zealand to be SPCA Animal Welfare certified. So you do the milking here out at the family farm in Fernglen. What happens to the milk once it's in the tank?
Yeah, we can store it on farm for 3 days, and then we take it into the factory and master it in. We just have a 2,000 litre trailer tanker that we travel it in ourselves, and we do have a 4,000 litre one that goes on a truck as well, that we were delivering milk for Spring Sheep with that. And then it's just pumped into the vats in town, and it has to leave here we generally have it under 2.5 degrees when it leaves here. We try and make sure that it's getting into town no higher than 3 degrees, and then it goes straight into a vat there, and then from that stage the boys just process it, different products out of the vat.
From the farm, it's off to the factory on the outskirts of Masterton, where the milk will be processed. That's where I meet Cameron, who shares his views on how the family became involved in sheep dairy and the nutritional benefits of this dairy alternative.
Hi, I'm Cam Ravenwood. I'm part of the Fernglen Farm family owned and operated sheep milking business, and we basically vertically integrated from grass to pasture to plate. So we do the whole shebang from farming, milking, and then do the product side as well. So we're bottling, turning milk into yogurt, cheeses and that sort of thing.
Definitely a family business like that where everyone's got lots of roles. Your dad sort of credits you with kind of moving into dairy. What was the starting point?
Basically, he cut out an article, it must have been 2015, about sheep milking. It was a really tiny little article. It had not very much information. Sheep milking was something we certainly never considered, and had grown up my whole life on sheep and beef farms. So it just perked my interest a little bit. They were talking about an $18 per kilo of milk solid payout for sheep dairy, which just got me interested, thinking, why are more people not doing it? I think at the time it was around a $7 payout or something like that for cow milk too. Basically from there I started looking into it. Myself and my brother are both really into nutrition and sport, and as we were looking into it, I realised how nutritious it was, really high in protein and a lot of the key micronutrients, and also the key amino acids for building blocks for muscle recovery and basically everything in your body. So that was just like a big tick that we thought, it's got some potential in that respect. And then just from an environmental perspective as well, it ticked a lot of boxes. Thought we could incorporate it into our farming system without an enormous amount of investment. And also the other really big positive for it was the fact that research had shown that people who can't tolerate cow's milk generally can tolerate sheep's milk, and certainly seemed to be an increasing trend or realisation there's potentially a good market demand for it. So just seemed to tick all the boxes from a raw product point of view, and then we thought we'll just have a wee crack at getting into it and seeing if we can build something.
Were there challenges in getting set up? I mean, I imagine, as you say, people hadn't necessarily at that point known a lot about sheep's milk and its benefits. Was that one of the challenges you faced, or what were some of the barriers?
Some of the key ones certainly is around like the perspective or perception of what sheep milk may taste like. Letting people know that yes, in fact, they do actually produce milk was a common question that comes up. But now that we've been going for a little while, we're certainly seeing a lot more people really open to trying it. They've either sort of heard about it or know people that have or are using it. So it's starting to get a lot easier to break down those barriers for people to try it initially. But like overseas, it's a really big, well, it's still small, but it's a lot bigger. And in New Zealand, for whatever reason, we're quite slow to try new things. So initially, it's just was that perception of what it would taste like was probably the hardest challenge. And that's why we initially started with flavoured milk, just to try and ease people into the idea of consuming it. And then we brought out the fresh, just plain milk side of it, and that's going really well. And I just think as we've been into it as well, consumer trends are changing a little bit, and in NZ, people are just a little bit more open to trying new things. And if people are willing to try milk from an almond, then why not a sheep?
Cameron explains what's different about sheep dairy, which contains 60% more protein and calcium compared to cow's milk, as well as all amino acids. Containing only A2 type proteins, it's also seen as more easily digestible.
I mean, sheep's milk is really good from a digestibility perspective. So basically, it's all A2 type protein, which research suggests that it's easier to digest compared to milk that contains A1 and A2 beta-casein. It's also medium to short fatty chain acids as opposed to long fatty chain acids, which is in cow's milk. So just being shorter fatty chain acids, it's just quicker and easier to digest. The ratio of lactose in sheep's milk is around about half because it's so nutrient dense. It's got nearly double the milk solids, but the same amount of lactose. So even people who are sensitive to lactose seem to be like tolerating our milk without any issues. The lactose piece is definitely still case by case. I'm not guaranteeing that anyone who's lactose intolerant will be able to have it without any issues, but certainly the feedback that we've had from customers who are that way have had very few that have come back with any issues. So that's like on that side, it's really, really valuable. And then nutritionally, it's got around 60% more protein and calcium compared to cow's milk. It's high in like magnesium, phosphorus, zinc, basically all your micronutrients. The key amino acids, leucine, from a sport and nutrition or even an elderly perspective, like people that are really need to look at what they're eating and in both instances need to eat like athletes to maintain their muscle mass basically. So it's overall, like from digestive perspective, nutritional, it's just a really high quality milk and better than the other milks that are on market in our opinion, just from a raw form.
Now it's time for a factory tour where Cameron talks me through Fernglen's different sheep milk products, including some of their latest offerings.
Basically, there's this raw milk tank, so a 2,000 litre one is the main one we'd use, so we can bring it through, and that just allows us to do, if we're doing we generally do multiple products or multiple batches on the same day, and then in here is a mixed tank if we're doing any flavourings or things like that, and then pasteurising before it goes through the factory basically, and then that side of it, and then so this is like a level 2 critical hygiene area, so it's not as strict, and then it gets passed on to level 3 critical, which is like suit up, and it gets, it's all important, all the hygiene's important, but even more so in there just because that's when your final product and you've got your pasteurised product that's going into packaging and going to be sent out. So
how much product would you guys be producing in a week, and obviously across your different product range as well?
But over 2,000 litres a week of various product at the moment, and then I guess this is our first season of starting to build up some cheese stock as well, so we've just throwing that into the mix of sort of accumulating or trying to build up a bit of hard cheese because it's aged cheese, like you need to try and build up a bit of a supply, so we've been doing quite a lot of that as well just to build up the stocks. So the milk's our focus, and it's still like the fresh milk's still kind of our key product. We've done a big push in that space just to try and accommodate for the market that can't tolerate cow's milk, because that's really what we really want to capture, is try and take some more market share basically off plant-based alternatives, because initially when we got into it we were real we're real passionate about nutrition, and sheep's milk's really nutritious, but also the digestion of it. So most people can't tolerate cow's milk can have sheep's milk. So when we look at some of the plant-based alternatives out there, a lot of the nutrients in them aren't actually bioavailable. So it means that people think that they're replacing what they used to drink milk with stuff that's fortified that their body can't actually absorb, so they're actually losing out on a lot of nutrients. So that side of it kind of annoys us a little bit, but also the amount of ingredients compared to single source sort of things. So and that's really what we want to just try increase awareness around is in that space. It's just that from our experience, like 99% of people who can't tolerate cow's milk have been fine on our sheep's milk. So, and it's a really good alternative in the sense that it tastes quite similar to full cream cow's milk, froths well on coffees and that sort of thing, and so it's actually a really easy transition. And then it's also got higher, 60% more protein and calcium and that sort of thing, so that's still quite a big focus to try and get that out there more for people, because we've had a lot of customer stories where it's genuinely really changed people's lives from a digestibility perspective. We've had people who've had eczema that's all cleared up, and so we still think there's a lot of potential there to help customers out and just try to build that awareness. So yeah, at the moment milk is our main sort of component, but the yogurt has been building really well. We've got the labneh, which is a Mediterranean style yogurt cheese, or kind of replaces cream cheese, and that's building. And then we've just bought cheese out, which is kind of like a long shelf life product that helps us add value to the milk. But when we in our springtime, basically when we've got surplus milk, we can value add and store it in cheese form basically, so, and then sell that throughout the whole year. So that's been our progression, and as we're developing more, we're certainly looking at more cheeses. So milk we're still pushing and still see a lot more growth potential, but the cheese percentage of our portfolio is certainly going to grow over the next sort of couple of years.
A few years into the business, Cameron says sheep dairy is becoming better understood and sees new opportunities for the industry. He shares his thoughts on the future.
Yeah, next steps for us are certainly just trying to continue to do what we're doing. We're obviously growing what we're doing off our own back, and haven't had the luxury of funding or anything like that other parts of the industry have had. We're really keen to see other farmers and be able to get to a scale where other farmers are supplying us, and we are doing a lot in just around export markets, but also further developing the New Zealand market with products that have potential for good volumes. So next steps for us, we just want to continue to grow at a pretty good steady pace, because we know these things actually always take longer than you think, and we don't want to rush ahead of ourselves. It's got to be pretty well planned stages of growth. But yeah, our intention is definitely to keep getting bigger and hopefully be in a position to take on other people's milk, and be looking at exporting as well, because we see a lot of potential with, especially around the digestibility side of sheep's milk for export. And as far as the industry goes, as a raw product, we think sheep's milk's really good, so it should do really well. Current economic times have been reasonably tough for everyone, so there has been a bit of struggle, especially in places that are looking mostly within the China market, but it's something that is stabilising, and there's still really strong demand over there. So I think in the long term the industry's going to grow a lot, and hopefully this is just a good way of consolidating and costs, or reassessing costs, because it's times like this where you've got to look at their costings and where your return on dollar spend actually is coming from. So I think in the long run, hopefully it sets it up for a stronger industry, because hopefully this process has helped lean out and help focus in on where the easy wins are and where the most practical growth is.
Being a family business and working together, how do you guys all find that and manage that side of things as well?
Yeah, the family side of things seems to work pretty well. It's probably, as we grow, will probably be a hard transition, because when it's just family, it's pretty easy to say things for how they are and not really sugarcoat anything, so it's pretty easy to get to the point, which, as long as it's managed in the right way, and I think we do, our relationships are still really strong, and we still have Christmases together, so that's always a bonus. The dynamics will change a lot as we continue to grow, but at the moment, like it is cool to be able to all be working towards the same sort of goal, and we're all sort of putting in some pretty big hours. So yeah, it's cool just as a team effort to be seeing everyone back up some pretty big shifts, and also just to see that the snowball is rolling, and I guess you're building something with your family, so that's quite nice, yeah.
That was Cameron Ravenwood I was speaking to there at the processing plant in Masterton. I also spoke with Dad Jeff Ravenwood at the family farm Fernglen on Wairarapa's east coast. They're still busy with milking and have just started with lambing too. Cameron says this new mob will help them to carry on milking and have year-round supply. You can find photos of the milking session and learn more about the family's foray into sheep dairy on our website, rnz.co.nz/countrylife.